All right, guys. Shaye Baker here with Wishin. I was fishing. I don't know if this is where it's supposed to be. I had to write some articles, so I had to push it out of the way. So now it's probably not where it's supposed to be. But hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's the important thing to remember here tonight, anytime I mess up. So this is Wishin' I Was Fishing with Shaye Baker. We've had the Bass Roundtable tonight. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about here. We got some hammers. Drew Benton, Elite Series hammer. Seth Feider, Elite Series hammer. Palaniuk, Elite Series hammer. All of them. Really good fishing. We're having a good time with them. We need some Q&A stuff. We need you guys to get your questions in so we can get these guys to answer them. Just make some comments over there. We got Derek Corner, Anglr Expert's going to pop in every now and then and tell us what we need to be talking about with you guys. So, yeah, that's pretty much how this show is going to go. So without further ado, I'm going to start introducing some of the guys we're going to have on the show. One of the things I thought about doing in this is we're going to play some of my favorite clips from some of these guys, some of the things that really stuck out. So first guy coming into the show, we're going to have Seth Feider, Fighter Man. I think I'm going to leave that like that, even though it kind of looks interesting. But this, I hope you guys can hear it. We tested this, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But this is probably my favorite clip in the last decade of bass fishing. This is Seth Feider after winning the Angler of the Year Championship tournament on St. Clair, I believe. The important part is what he says.
And as far as the off season goes, yeah, I'm just gonna probably get my wife pregnant and go kill a bunch of greenheads. Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Let's
if
hear
you couldn't hear that, just in
Fighter
case,
Man.
that was Seth Feider saying his off-season plans are to get his wife pregnant. And without further ado, let's get the guy in here. What's up, Fighter Man?
What's happening? What's going on?
That's a fantastic one. I feel like you're one of those. You're kind of like me in a sense where you probably say things before you think about them. And
Absolutely.
That works out for the better, though, right?
Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but yeah, I don't think before I talk at all.
Well, you ended up with a kind of like an overtime situation here where the off season started back over. Have you been able to get her pregnant twice yet? No, there's not enough time. So, but you are going to have a baby in August, right?
Yeah, I got another little girl coming like second week of August.
That's wow, man. That's fantastic. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So I'm gonna kick you out just a second. We're gonna bring you back in. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce one of our next guests, Drew Benton here, and put up a little video clip of him, but we'll see it again here in just a second. I love that. That is fantastic. All right. This is a clip that just is pure awesomeness. So Drew Benton runs down his first hole in the 2019 opener down in St. John's and breaks off a giant on bed. And that's where the story went in for some people, but not this story. That is fantastic. That is, I believe, what a lot of us pretty much live off of when we're fishing and not catching them at times. So, Drew, is that kind of the case for you? How often do you go back there in your mind? That's a pretty awesome fishing.
It was, I was going through everything that went wrong after I broke that thing off, and just to have her bite again and it work out, it's just a real emotional moment. First fish of the season, it definitely set the tone, so it was pretty exciting to say the least.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, that how big was that fish again? Was it a 9?
No, I think it was in the 8-pound range.
We'll
but
9.5. That's good.
It was a big one. It was a big one to start the season off. It's one you definitely won the box running back to Palaca, that's for sure.
And that's a monster. All right, so we'll be back to you in just a second. Just going to get our last guest for now in, and then we'll be back in just a second. So this moment here is with Brandon Palaniuk. And this deal, so Palaniuk and I probably of all these three guys worked together more in my tenure at Bass. And this deal here, he and I were kind of sitting off stage. He's about to win the tournament, about to blow it out. And we thought, it'd be pretty cool to cut a hole in your jersey and put a GoPro through your jersey, capture some different footage. And it was really cool. And we got in a little trouble with some sponsors. But hey, look at this footage. Look at that. That is sick. Nobody had done that. I don't know if anybody had. I've seen guys wear it, but that's some nasty footage. So we're going to let this play on out, and we'll bring in our next guest here in just a second.
industry's Ratchet Skier Yamaha with one thing on his mind: 5 fin freaks of nature. Trouble taking that bag out. Come on up here. Let's get these two guys side by side. No matter what way this works out, we're going to have a great champion. Started today with 65.7, needs 15.14. Boom. 23 pounds. Becomes a two-time Bassmaster to the 2014 Bassmaster Classic. £88, 12 ounces. The Evan Williams Bourbon St. Lawrence River Showdown belongs to powerful Brandon Palaniuk. So let's crown a champion and send him to the 2014 Bassmaster Classic. I would ask our tournament director, Mr. Chris Bowe, to come out and make it official. The St. Lawrence River Showdown.
I love that. That deal where he's like reaching for the trophy. That's a nasty shot. I mean, so without further ado, Brandon, YMCMB, Young Money, Cash Money, Brandon Marshall Palaniuk. How are you there, bud?
I'm doing good. That was pretty cool to live back that moment. I haven't seen that footage in a while.
Yeah, that's you were a baby. I was too. I've added probably 30 pounds since then. I think you've added 3.5 ounces of mustache. That's a nice stash you got going on there.
Thank you. It only comes around for special occasions.
I heard that. Well, that's awesome. Let's get the other guys in here. And Drew Benton coming back in here. Seth Feider coming back in. There we go. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
How bored?
Hey.
How hard has it been to try to keep yourself busy? And I guess it's going to be a tricky situation where I ask all of y'all a question and all three of y'all try to answer. I hadn't really thought this that far through, so we'll do it. Paulie, what have you been doing to keep busy through this?
Oh, man. I've actually been fishing a lot. Thankfully, Idaho kept fishing wide open, so I took advantage of that. I haven't fished in Idaho in the spring in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty cool to come back and actually use the electronics and stuff that we have and kind of use some of the knowledge that I've gained over the last 10 years and put it to work at home. And it's just happened to have been a phenomenal spring here. So I've been doing quite a bit of that. Actually been working on our house a little bit, which has been nice because I've been paying for a house for 2 years now and feel like I've lived in it about 4 months. So it's good to actually get some stuff done around the house and the shop.
What about you, Fighter, man? You how are you guys just stuff like this? I mean, you're having to find all sorts of ways to add value for your sponsors right now because you should be fishing tournaments, but you can't. But we're about to get that going again, thank goodness. What have you been doing to kind of keep in the routine, keep busy, keep your mind on top of things, and then add value for your sponsors? How you been doing that?
I've been shooting a lot of video content and stuff that's gonna go out, in the future, stuff that we can still do, just, 2 guys in a boat shooting videos and stuff like that. But that's about all I can do right now until the tournaments get rolling. But yeah, just been trying to fish as much as I can around the house and went and killed a turkey. Sure, you'd like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hanging out with the fam. It's nice being home. It's, we're gone so much to hang out with the wife and kids, don't get to do that a lot. So that's always good.
What about you, Drew? What you been up to, bud?
Well, we've got a newborn, so it's been nice to be able to spend time at home with them and our little boy Colt, and of course our 5-year-old Cade. So I've enjoyed that. That's kind of been a kind of a refresher. The other thing is I love to deer hunt. That's a big passion of mine in the off season. So I've planted just about every acre I can of iron clay peas, soybeans, corn. I'm going to give the deer around here diabetes and feeding them so much, I feel like. But I've been enjoying my time in the woods and doing that, and just trying to stay focused to get back started whenever we do to get that opportunity. And it's looking like it's coming pretty soon. So excited, definitely, to get back out there.
Yeah, the Elite Series just announced the revised schedule, so I've got it here off screen, but I can't pull it up with all of us on the screen. So I'm gonna kick Eeny, Mighty Fighter. We'll kick him off in just a second. We're gonna pull up this. That's the new Elite Series schedule, and the obvious thing that stands out, most of it's the same, but those last, I guess the last 3 tournaments are the ones that moved, and you got fall fishing for the first time in the Elite Series. I don't know, did they ever do it? I know they used to do some stuff in the fall and all, but I can't think of the Elite Series once it came along having fall fishing. So I want to talk to y'all about like Santee, Cooper, Chickamauga, and Fort there. How does Benton get started here first, but how do you target fish differently on Santee, Cooper in the fall than you would in the spring? I mean, how do fish populations get together as far as quality fish? You're obviously not looking for them around beds and stuff anymore. So where's your head go on that?
That's a good question. I really feel like you'll go back to some of the staging areas that they'll be in pre-spawn. They should be moving to some of those, I feel like, in the fall. Your places like the swamp up there where it's got a lot of cypress trees and a lot of creek channels and things like that for the shad to migrate to when they make that fall migration. I think that's going to be something that's going to play a factor in the fall there. Again, I'm most of the time, that time of year, I'm in the woods. I'm chasing deer. Fishing is as far from my mind as anything. And I think that it's definitely going to be a shakeup for me for that time of year, for that place especially. Because, Santee, I was licking my chops, going to be able to go sight fish there. It's one of the best sight fishing places in the country. It's got giants, and that's just what I love to do, and that's the way I like to target them when we go there. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I feel like it's definitely going to play to even the playing field for that event, and it'll be anybody's ball game for that one for sure.
One thing I like, so Palaniuk, it might actually work to one of your advantages in the big live bait deal, right? I mean, is that something that I don't know. I've never fished Santee in October or Chick in October or any of that, but it seems like that could be something that's right up your alley. What do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, we were going to Santee and Chick at a really good time to go throw a glide bait. I was actually at Chickamauga when they postponed it. So I was already halfway across the country driving from my house down to Chick. Decided just to stay there, went and threw a glide bait out there and had in the high 20s, which would have been the final day of the tournament. So both of those events would have lined up really well in the springtime because you had those giant fish and the majority of the population moving up. But what happens in the fall is that you end up with more stable conditions. And so that kind of allows us to be able to get on something and hopefully it holds out a little bit more. But then you also have fish that are swimming around, transitioning a lot more in the fall. So it can be tricky, but it definitely, I think like Drew was saying, it evens out the playing field and allows guys to kind of be able to fish towards their strengths a little bit more, I feel like.
Which one of those three?
The big thing, the big thing for me is I've never fished in the fall.
Yeah.
By October, I'm in Idaho.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to expect.
Yeah. What about you, Feider? Which one of those three are you most excited about?
Not a big fan of being down south in the fall. The one that I'm most excited about is Cayuga Lake. They took the dirty old Sabine River off the schedule and threw us a gem. So that's what I'm most excited about. But to me, fall fishing, it's junk fishing. It's put the trolling motor down, catch one on a top water, catch one on a shaky head, and, scrap together a limit at the end of the day. I'm sure Lake Fork would probably be pretty good, just 'cause there's so many big fish in there, but I could see Santee and Chickamauga being pretty grimy.
Yeah. So one of the big things this year, obviously, the COVID and the coronavirus and all this that's going on, Baitcast is going to be online only. How are y'all planning, and the companies that y'all are working with, planning on attacking that? How much has changed? How much is it going to be better? Like, talk to me. I'm sure y'all have been in conversations with a lot of these companies. You don't have to give up anything in particular, but what are y'all trying to do to make the most of this first digital iCast and go pop?
From what I know, everybody's still trying to figure it out. I've honestly not had that many conversations with companies about exactly what's going to happen, because they've been doing the same thing for so many years and everything was already planned out. iCast gets planned out nearly a year in advance. And so when all this went down, nobody really knows exactly how to approach the live or the virtual iCast. And the other thing is that I'm not sure how that's going to be set up. I don't understand exactly how the actual organization of iCast is going to be set up with booths and are there going to be live video feeds like this, or is it going to be a free for all? I don't know all the organizational parts of that. So I don't know about the other guys, but I honestly just have not had that many, conversations to even know what the plan is.
One big thing about it too that's going to be a real weird deal. So a lot of times these companies are struggling just to get prototypes and different things for the Classic, and then for iCast and these certain tournaments. I mean, these certain events that go on where they want to release new product. And obviously, a lot of stuff's made in China, and that supply chain is breaking down all over the place. So, I mean, when you pull up the Zaxby's and can't get Thousand Island dressing, I don't think Thousand Islands, but that's just a very small. Like all these little holes are happening in the supply chain, So I'm very curious to see how much production after this comes back to America, how much maybe just comes to like Mexico, where it's a little closer, but it's been a little bit more expensive in recent years than China. And then how much is the American-made U.S. brand come back on this deal? And I don't know if any of y'all can talk about that. It's just something I thought about with iCast. Is like, I don't know how, if you had a product you were developing in October, you're going to get it now, in time for iCast. So.
Yeah, I've been running into that same problem with a couple companies I work with. Is just waiting on stuff to get back going. We've been working on stuff and waiting on samples and stuff like that, and everything's kind of on hold and delayed. And I don't know what's going to happen with where stuff gets manufactured. I'm not real in tune on that stuff, but as far as the whole iCast thing goes, I thought it was just 100% canceled until you said something yesterday about having a online one. So I haven't heard anything from any of my sponsors on the whole online deal. And as of yesterday, I thought it was just 100% canceled. But whatever we got to do, we'll do.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. Like Wire to Fish, Tackle Warehouse, some of these online retailers and websites and all kind of already had the front row. Bassmaster, had this front row seat to put content out. I mean, the companies were already sending them these products leading up to iCast, and they were kind of set up to do a digital virtual iCast in a sense. So I wonder how much of an advantage it is to them, and how much iCast as an organization will try to do that. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. It's going to be very different. And I think it'll potentially change iCast moving forward to some degree. I think it has been done the same way for so long, and it still will. I mean, it's kind of like a trip to Mecca or whatever, like it's pilgrimage whenever you get to go to iCast, especially for younger anglers. And it's like the Classic, and the first time you get to see this kind of stuff, it's a big deal. So I think they'll still have a fixed location when next year, whenever the time comes. But it'll be interesting to see how it changes things. But anyway, that's that. That's a little industry talk about the Elite Series, the new schedule. And iCast. So what we'll do now is we'll move to another segment called Hanging Out with Hammers. And that's where we're going to let a fan come in here and hang out with you guys. And we'll see if this didn't cover anybody up. So I'm going to kick myself out here and let Caleb Warrington from Austin jump in and talk to you guys for a minute and just see what y'all think about some of the questions he's going to ask. And I'm trying to talk around, not being able to actually. Okay, here it is. See y'all.
Mustache is looking real extra special, by the way, Palaniuk.
Thanks. It's just for you.
Thank you.
It started out as a joke, and then it's just stuck here. So, hey.
It looks good.
Chris?
I mean, I wouldn't shave it.
I can see him. I can't hear him.
Oh.
Nope, we got no sound.
That was what you call a blunder on my part, where I had him muted. And I'm like, why is he not going? And he was going. So there he goes. Let him talk, man. You got it, Caleb.
How about this? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now we got him. Yeah, we got him.
Right. How you guys doing? Man,
Good.
this is crazy to,
Good,
beginning of the day, was not expecting to be talking to 3 professional fishermen, man. This is crazy. So I'm kind of geeking out right now, but I have questions, like broad questions, but I wrote down individual questions for everybody, but you guys can definitely weigh in, because my first question I was going to ask Seth this, but you guys all weigh in because I'm sure you all have
Bring me that foam.
The Garmin Live Scope. How do you guys think that's going to – I mean, I can see it for what it is already. I mean, it just seems like it would be such a game changer for anybody fishing. You guys have thoughts on, like, you guys all have it? You have to have it to do well? Like, you feel like it's essential now or not? I don't know, man. It just seems crazy.
Yeah,
I
type
don't know.
transducer.
Go ahead, Seth.
There's different. So you said Garmin Live Scope. There's different ones out now. It's kind of like structure scan and side imaging and all the different ways of doing that now. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think all these companies are trying to take advantage of now. So how valuable is that live view to y'all? Being able to see live action, whether it's on Lowrance, Humminbird, 360, whatever.
Yeah, I've never actually used the Panoptics. I've seen videos and stuff. Looks pretty cool, but I got a 360 with the Humminbird, so I can see fish on it, but it's not quite the same as a Panoptics where you can watch them move around and react to your bait and stuff like that. And as far as a need thing, definitely cool. There's going to be a lot of times when if you're fishing in grass or ripping down the bank fishing like we do most of the time, it's probably not going to be that big a player. Where I've seen it be the biggest advantage is when we go to spotted bass lakes, places where the fish suspend a ton and they're roaming around just in open water, kind of cruising around doing their own deal. And that's where I've seen guys have the biggest advantage with them.
Gotcha.
Caleb,
I would agree. Like
Palaniuk about glide baits. What did you have for Palaniuk on glide baits?
Yeah, for sure. My question on glide baits is: do you need to have clear water like 100% of the time to follow what's going on, or do you just blindly throw those things like in dirtier water and just what's going on because the flow of your how that bait's moving because you've seen it? Is that what you do? Dirty water? No. Clear water only?
No, it doesn't have to be just clear water. So the way I think about it is that when it comes to like water clarity and all that, it's all relative. So think about it in the sense of how deep are those fish, right? If the fish are in 20 foot of water and I've only got a foot of visibility, I'm going to have a really hard time catching them on a glide bait. But if those fish are in 2 foot of water and I've got a foot of visibility, they can see halfway through the water column and they're already up there shallow. And then it becomes more feasible to catch them in that dirtier water. Then you just have to fish more target oriented types of things. and then try to throw colors that are like brighter, more vibrant ones. So like one of the ones that I've got right here, this is the bluegill color in the Stormarashi Glide. This one works really well in like clear, semi-stained type of stuff. But in that really dirty water, because it's somewhat transparent, you start to lose some of it. So then I go with like more of the Okiwamisu or black silver shad, something like that, that's going to stand out a little bit more. But you can catch them. I actually did a live video with like a GoPro chesty throwing it in super dirty water, probably less than a foot of water. And you just pitch it and fish it around cover like you would a spinner bait. And it's a big enough bait that those fish can feel it. It's pushing enough water, and you get a little bit of that side to side flash. And it's probably not always the best way to catch them in dirtier water, but I don't hate to tell people that you can't do it, because you can catch them in that dirtier water. It's just the cleaner the water you have, the further the distance they'll come to eat it. But really, like, the best success I've had is in that 3 to 5 foot of visibility. So I think you've got a really good balance where the fish set up, they're a little bit more aggressive and they can't see the bait as well and come from a long ways. And it seems like you end up getting more fish to commit than to follow. And did I hear right? You said you're from Austin?
I live in Austin. Yeah, I'm not from here. Yeah, for sure. I need to start doing
that. Yeah, the biggest largemouth I've ever caught was on an 8-inch Hud in Lake Austin.
In Austin.
And that was, before Austin used to be awesome. So if you just moved there, you probably didn't get to experience it.
4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah. You were like right on the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Because I caught that big one, I think in 2014, 2015. And before that, they were catching 40-pound bags out of there, like they were going out of style. And it's just, once they killed the grass and everything, it's just disappeared. But there is a lot of good swim bait fishing around there. I've caught them on that Arashi Glide at Travis the last time we had Texas Fest there. So that's a phenomenal place for it. It's got a bunch of big ones, and they do group up there, so it can be pretty fun.
I got one follow-up. Can I do one real quick follow-up? If you had a fish following that Arashi Glide up and didn't commit, and you quickly wanted to throw something in to follow up, what's your go-to?
Usually it depends on the cover that they're around.
Okay.
If it's like open water type stuff, then a lot of times I'll just pitch a drop shot at them. But if they're like suspended around something, a lot of times the little Arashi spy bait is actually a really good way to follow up, because it's going to give them a similar look, but it's going to be in a smaller package, but you can still move it kind of slowly through the water column suspended.
Awesome.
All right, Caleb, we appreciate it, bud. We'll get here. Appreciate you asking some questions, bud.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Take care, guys.
See ya.
All right. So, see, we had some technical issues we're trying to work out over here with Drew. See if we got his audio going again. Can you hear us through here without the phone?
Yeah, I got your audio here, but I can't hear when Brandon or Seth speaks or our guests. So,
all right, we're gonna try to kick you out and start it back over because there's a good bit of feedback. Just click that link again and log back in. We'll start the next segment with you guys. Appreciate it. All right, you gotta love technology. And so moving on to technology that actually works, which is the Anglr app, and we're gonna do a segment called Breaking Down Your Water. But in this particular situation, we're going to do breaking down my water. I'm going to take advantage of having you guys on the phone here. And got a little derby coming up on Lay Lake. And I don't know anything about Lay Lake. I'm very bad at fishing on Lay Lake. I've been up there a couple of times. I do not catch them. So we're going to do a breakdown of my water situation. And I'm already seeing that the app's going to be kind of hard to see on this screen as well. So we're going to try to make this work right here. Let's see. You got to love the challenge. You know what I mean? So here's Lay Lake. Here's the dam at the bottom, man. All y'all got to do is tell me where at on this little deal here I'm going to catch 22 pounds and I'll be satisfied. Go ahead. That's that easy. All right. So let's zoom in a little bit. So have either one of y'all fished Lake Lake much in Alabama?
I don't know if I've ever been there.
They had a classic there, or maybe a few years ago. Like Yellow Swan, one of them. But yeah, this is Lake Lakes on the Coosa River. This is in the Anglr app here. I've got a little bit of knowledge. So this is Spring Creek, and the problem is it's the same thing. This was supposed to be in the springtime, and like this is a place where I caught a 4-pounder before, but that's actually a 5-pounder from last night. I just wanted to upload a picture to show y'all. But yeah, so I don't know. Like they got a lot of big Coosa spots, right? So I don't know really what to do here on the spotted bass. I'm not a very good spotted bass fisherman. So what do y'all look for? Say again, you're having to think about things different this year in fall fishing more for your tournaments. So late September, I think it is, which is basically early fall down here. It's still pretty hot. Top water is a big deal. A lot of times, a lot of the guys that do really well run all the way up to the dam. Do y'all have much experience fishing like tail races and stuff like that?
I don't, but I've never really done it.
How about you, BP? Like tail races?
I mean, I've got a fair amount, and I know one thing about Coosa River spots is they love current. So if they're generating current, that's going to force those fish to feed. But the biggest thing that happens when they start generating current is that it pushes them to the bank, especially if they're pushing a lot of current. I think I've maybe been on Lay Lake one time. And so I don't have a lot of experience there, but it's a pretty cool fishery. And I believe it's got a bunch of like water willow and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what time of year is the tournament that you're
I think it's late September.
looking at.
So yeah, I mean,
yeah, so late September, you're in the fall, fish are going to be spread out. It's probably going to be a lot off the bank. And so anytime you get those river systems, I try to look for places like I'll identify the largest spawning area that I can find. And then I try to work my way backwards from that. So knowing that there's going to be a big population of fish that spawn in those larger, big flat areas. That one right there is a perfect example.
Well, it was.
That just disappeared to you.
Quick time failed on me.
But that's, I try to do that and then work my way out from that. And then so in September, you're probably going to have a mix of like shallow bars with topwater fish on them. And those are going to be mixed spots and largemouth. I would guess that there's going to be some like offshore cranking fish and shaky heads. And, like Seth was saying earlier, you get in the fall time and it becomes kind of a junk fishing derby where you've got 15, 20 rods on the deck and you may catch them on every single one of them that day. And so it's really just going to depend on like how cold it starts to get and how far along those fish are.
I got you. What about Feider? What's your favorite fall largemouth bait? I mean, it's kind of different from up there to down here, I guess. What do you go with first in the fall?
Around the house, it's 100% jig season. Just a flipping stick and a jig and throw it at everything, a dock, a lay down, a clump of pads, whatever. Just go. As far as fishing down south in the fall, I've only done it a couple times, and one time it was pretty much all a top water deal, and the other one was like the grimiest, throw a shaky head all day and pray for 5 bites, and that was it. But up north, our fishing's really good in the fall, but it does get junky on like as far as patterns and stuff go. But once that water gets cold around the house, you put a big jig in your hand and just go throw it at everything you see.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And top water is a big deal down here too. So we'll see what I can do out there. I got the next. That's the Alabama Bass Trail. So the next one is actually I think the second week of June. I'd love some tips on it. It's on Lake Eufaula. Y'all ever heard of that one? Y'all not gonna give me a
Yeah, I actually live pretty close to there now. I spent some time out here the last few weeks.
Yeah, y'all not gonna give me any tips on that one? Y'all got a tournament or something? Y'all seem like you've been a little stingy.
It's gonna be pretty good.
That's all you say.
Yeah, it's probably one of the top lakes in Alabama right now. Honestly, you could last I went out before it went off limits. You could catch them on the bank out to 20 foot, and it didn't matter what you wanted to do. You could go catch them any way you wanted to. So our tournament, they're going to be off the bank. I feel like by June, so it's definitely going to be an offshore slugfest for that one for sure.
So we'll do a little Q&A here, get some of the questions in from the audience. We've got, let's see, Thomas Rice here wanting to know kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, but what do y'all do now to pre-prepare since the schedule changed, like same lakes, different times in the season? What's the hardest thing to adjust for there? Go ahead, Fighter.
Yeah, it's gonna be time of year probably. With spring tournaments, most of those were set up to be somewhat around the spawn. So it kind of narrows down what you need for tackle. You're going to be, generally fishing shallow at all those tournaments. And now going back in the fall, it's like bring everything you own. You might catch them on a wake bait, a top water, or a 20-foot diving plug. So, yeah, we're definitely have to pack a lot more. I kind of do like, when you go there in the spring, just simple fact, you need, a couple winding baits and a couple flipping sticks, and you can pretty much go anywhere and catch them with that.
So here's, I guess, the best generally specific question ever. What is the best reaction bait to cover the most water with in a variety of conditions? I mean, spinnerbait, that's a very broad thing, but Palaniuk, give them something there. What do you think? Best reaction bait to cover the most water in a variety of conditions? No, Palaniuk going silent on us. Watch what we can do right here. There you go.
That's my fault. I had my mic muted.
You're good.
I would probably go with a jerkbait, actually. It seems like that's a bait that you can throw any time of year, and clear water to somewhat stained water, you can catch a lot of fish on it, and you can cover a lot of water. You can fish it fast. But it seems like that's a very versatile bait, probably more so for me than a spinnerbait, because a spinnerbait, some conditions, I feel like it's harder to catch them, right? You get dead slick, calm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to get them to react unless you're talking smallmouth and you can go burn the thing. But in a wide variety of conditions, for me, it's going to have to be a jerkbait.
So you guys keep sending your questions in. We got a few more here. Keep coming, and we'll keep throwing them up. I'm guessing David Block here has got a question for Drew Benton. How should I fish the first week of June? No, actually, that's probably for Fighter. I'm sorry. Fighter, I think that was great.
First week of June on Mille Lacs, they're pretty much all going to be spawning. I'd say whip a hair jig around when you're looking, catch whatever's cruising, and then just keep your eyes peeled. A little drop shot with a little swim bait or something. Pretty much one cast all the spawners you want.
So Heath Jordan here. We'll throw this one to you, Benton. What's your favorite bait for the first post spawners that hit the ledges on the main river on a lake like Chickamauga? You fall, Gunnersville, those kinds of deals.
Well, when they first get out there, they'll bite a crankbait pretty good typically before they get busted up and beat on. That and a big swim bait like a 6-inch Bastrix or a Zoom swimmer or a big bite suicide shad on a 3/4 ounce head, 1 ounce head. Big baits. When they first get out there, they're schooled up. You catch them on those big baits first thing, and that's what I'm gonna throw: a big plug or a big swim bait.
What let's see here. I had one. We'll throw this one at you, Paul. What's your favorite way to catch fish on your home body of water? Because that's a different. So, what is your home body up there in Idaho? What's your closest one you fish the most?
Man, oh gosh, I've got 9 lakes within 30 minutes of my house, so it's hard to say there's just one home lake. But Coeur d'Alene Lake is probably the most infamous one. It's been rated in the top 5 a couple times in the top 100 lakes by B.A.S.S. So that's probably the most infamous home lake. And man, my favorite way to catch them there is flipping a jig. Like early in the spring, get a little bit of snow melt, floods. 6 inches of visibility and go flip a black and blue jig around, throw that old cage fighter around there and lay into some freaking big ones. There's been, I don't know how many 7 to 9 pounders caught this year. And those are 100% northern strain largemouth. Me and a buddy had over 32 pounds one day. Like it's incredible. And it's been really good this spring. And that's just always been, since I was a little kid, flipping a jig around is one of my favorite ways to catch them.
So I think here, unfamiliar lakes for a tourney, like you're going somewhere you don't know, how much of it is mental and how much of it is on the water prep, like getting ready beforehand and actually, I guess, out on the water, getting dialed in? Go ahead. Fighter, maybe? Yeah. What do you think? Either one of you?
I guess I do a lot of, depending on where we're going. If it's like a typical reservoir, I usually don't do too much research on it. The ones I do a ton on are kind of like your Sabines or Winya Bays, stuff like that. I'll look on Google Earth for like hours on end. And then mental prep, I don't know, just I think about it since, you know, as soon as it's the next one on the schedule, it's the only thing I think about. So I'm probably not the best prepper there is. I'm usually kind of behind the 8 ball and stuff. But
Did you have a lot?
like every tournament we go to, you get 3 days of practice, and usually it's like about 2.5 days into it, and I figure anything out.
I heard that. You're not a great prepper, huh? So you didn't have like a great stash of toilet paper built up out of the gate in this whole thing yet?
No, I got one in the boat though. One roll in the boat at all times. Gotta have that.
People were running out of toilet paper. I'm over here trying to get my stimulus check so I can buy up reels before they get held up in the China distribution process. I'm trying to think one step even further ahead. You know what I mean? But anyway, so all right, that's some good Q&A there. You guys keep sending us questions. I might try to jump back on that here in a little while. But right now we're gonna do some tips and tricks. So each one of y'all got us a little something to talk about, tips and trick wise. And I guess we'll start with Fighter if you're ready to go.
No.
You're not ready to go?
Go someone else. I'll go to the garage and grab a rod first.
That'll work. So we'll kick him out while he disappears. Watch how he's so casual. He's gone. All right. So Drew Benton or Brandon Palaniuk, which one of y'all want to go first? All right. Brandon Palaniuk is. So Palaniuk's going to talk to us a little bit about, and we got him up there. We're going to let Palaniuk talk to us a little bit about, what are you going to talk to us about? I forgot what we decided on here, but I'm going to turn it over to you in just a
I am going to talk about actually adjusting your Baitcaster, if I get this in frame. So depending on the reel that you have is going to depend on how you adjust it. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with a different reel and then come back to this because this is more standard. This is a Daiwa Steez A. Now, this really has 2 adjustments. You've got your brake adjustments on the side right here. So you've got little numbers right there. And then you've got, let me move this out of the way so you can see it better. And then you've got this tensioning spool or this tension knob right here that is going to tension the spool. And so what I like to do is on all my Daiwas, if you have this tensioning knob, if it's not already set from the factory, I tighten this up to where my spool is just barely got a little movement and then just go a hair more so you don't have the slop in that spool. When you have your spool moving back and forth and you have that slop in there, you're actually taking away from your casting distance and your accuracy because that spool is moving back and forth. So you want it just past the point of being able to have that movement, and that's going to allow you to have the most accuracy. And then the numbers on the side are going to help control that toward the end of your cast. It's going to help slow that spool down as it gains momentum. Now, the cool thing is that Daiwa came up with recently is what they call their zero adjuster brake system. And so that knob right there for you is actually set from the factory. So you don't even touch that. It's pre-tuned at the factory. And all you have to do is use the number brakes on the side. And I love that system because what that allows me to do is if I'm switching between baits, I can raise or lower that number. So if I'm throwing really light stuff, this is a TW103 SV, I can go down and throw really light stuff. I can pitch a little, 3/16 ounce jig around or something like that. And then if I want to throw something a little bit heavier, half ounce or something, I'm skipping under docks, I can adjust that up a little bit and perfectly dial it in without going back and forth between the two adjustments. So, if you've got one that has both adjustments, I always like to adjust this one first, get it to where that spool is just tight. Or if you've got one of the newer Daiwa models, they come already pre-adjusted, and you've got that zero adjuster brake system that you don't even have to mess with. Just mess with the numbers.
Good stuff. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. So we'll keep tips and tricks rolling here. Everybody keep the questions rolling in. If you want to ask these guys a little something, go over in the comments, and we'll try to catch up with a few more of the Q&A deals here in a minute. But we're going to kick Palaniuk aside and bring Benton back in. So, Drew, what do you have for us to talk about here in the tips and tricks segment?
So I have the Bagley B flat. It is, if you'll notice, it's a real slender flat balsa. And a balsa is kind of a niche bait, but whenever they're on it, they're on a balsa better than a plastic bait. And the reason why is you can get a half ounce bait that weighs that much, the same as a plastic that's half ounce. And this balsa is going to be so much more buoyant. It's going to deflect off cover more naturally. It's going to come through lay downs, the nastiest snags, a whole lot easier than a plastic bait because of that buoyancy. And the good thing about a flat bait is it's supernatural. So those heavy pressured situations when the fish are not biting really well, particularly in the fall, like we're going to have some of these makeup events, this flat bait will get you bites when a normal crankbait will not. One of those wide wobble crankbaits won't get a bite. This one will. And that's the reason why people throw them so much in the cold water, because it's so subtle. And that time of year, bait fish are not real quick moving a lot of times. They're real subtle swimming. And this tight wobble action when it comes through the water gets you a lot more bites than a wide hunting action crankbait. And that's the reason why a flat-sided crankbait is so widely used, again, in those tough situations and in the cold water situations. I really like this bait anytime from pre-spawn all the way through the spawn. And when we go to places like Winyah Bay, Sabine River, I caught fish on it one time on the Ohio River in a FLW Series championship in the fall when it was extremely tough, and 7 or 8 pounds a day did you really good. A flat-sided crankbait will bail you out a bunch of times. So, and the good thing about a Bagley bait versus, just a normal hand-carved balsa bait is it goes through a HCM process that Bagley's pioneered. So basically, whenever in years past, when you would buy 8 or 10 balsa crankbaits, you might have to get 2 or 3 that's going to run good out of those 8 or 10. It's not the case with this process because they put it through a heat compression mold, and basically it takes all the voids out of the wood and compresses it. So each one of these baits is exactly the same from package to package. So you ain't got to worry about, buying half a dozen of them and getting 1 or 2 to run right. You're going to get each one you buy is going to run right. So definitely something cool that Bagley's is pioneered, and it's changed the way that I think of balsas and the way I fish them.
That'll work. I appreciate that, Hammer. What about let's go over here to Feider for the tips and tricks. Looks like he's back from the garage. Hey there, Feider. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, back in action.
I
I'll
think
show you flipping tube. That's something I love to do a lot. In my opinion, as soon as fish get on beds, this is the best bait to flip going down the bank. That jig really shines pre-spawn, but this bait to me catches them all. It's a really good way to catch blind fish, catch spawners. You still catch pre-spawners on it really well, and post-spawners. And there's a couple of things I do to rig it a little bit different. I fished it on a 4/0 VMC heavy duty wide gap with a ring on there. I don't know if you can see that. I feel an extra wide gap's the way to fish a tube. Couple other things I do. I see that bob. I don't know if you can see that bobber stop. I keep that up about 3-4 inches up ahead of the weight. That'll still allow you to fish, in brush or grass, and still, keep your weight and your bait semi together. Where if your sinker goes over a limb, your tube will come with it. But leaving that little space in there creates it makes the tube fall really erratic. A lot of guys, like old school tube guys, will tell you not to peg it at all, but leaving that up there 3-4 inches, you still get semi the advantage that you do having a peg sinker, but you still get that erratic fall, which really catches those, kind of funky post spawn fish. And the problem is when you peg it all the way down, you kind of lose all that. It just falls a lot more like a jig or, a creature bait or something like that. And slides in and out of cover super easy. Another thing, I always go pretty light on the weight. 9 times out of 10, it's a 1/4 ounce on a tube. I don't, most like if I was going down the bank with a beaver style bait or something like that, I'd flip a lot of like 3/8 or 1/2 ounce or something like that. But I'd say probably 5/16 the heaviest I'll flip on a tube, somewhere between 3/16, 5/16, keep it at a 1/4. And super versatile. Green pumpkin's pretty much my go-to, but I can catch every fish in every phase of the spawn on that rod right there. 20-pound fluoro and throw it at everything. Like I said, I catch spawners, pre-spawners, post-spawners. It's been pretty deadly for me.
Heck yeah. What you do a lot of spinning rod fishing. What would you recommend for somebody that wanted a good? Because like me, for instance, I don't fish with spinning rods a lot. I actually texted Palaniuk and Zaldane and a couple other guys a few years ago whenever I first decided to get a quality spinning rod. I'd had just some junk that, we crappy fish with or whatever. I put a shaky head on every now and then, but I wanted to actually do some drop shot, do some different stuff. So what's a good, reasonable, and a rod that you can do a lot with that's spinning reel and spinning rod combo for somebody that's wanting to get into it more?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite, most versatile one. We got in the Daiwa Tatula Elite lineup. It's a Randy Howell rod. It's a 7-foot 3-inch medium. We got a bunch of different spinning rods in the line, but a lot of them are really tailored to a drop shot rod or something real technique specific. I'd say his is the most versatile in the lineup, where you could drop shot, wacky rig, shaky head, tube, jig, fish, all that stuff with that same rod. And then Daiwas are really good on their spinning reels, like all the way down. I was actually shocked. I bought my daughter a little rod and reel, gonna get her out fishing and stuff, and went to the store and bought. I'm not even sure which one it is. It's like a $50 Daiwa, and that thing had an awesome drag in it. But off the top of my head, the Tatula spinning reel is really good, but like their drag systems and stuff are good all the way down through their lineup. I was super impressed with their $50 spinning reel, but the Tatula spinning reel, I think, is around $120, $150, and that thing's pretty bulletproof and pretty good to go.
There you go. That gives you a setup that lasts you years and lets you do a lot of different stuff. So we'll slide pretty seamlessly maybe here into some more Q&A, because this one's set up for you anyway. What he wants you to comment on tying your trebles on topwaters in twitch baits instead of split rings. So,
yeah, gosh, it's gonna be hard to do without my stuff, but I think you can YouTube it. I actually got into this fishing blade baits in the winter for smallmouths. They would just nip it every time, and then when you start fighting them, you'd lose so many of them, and they're really not even fighting that hard because the water's really cold, but it's just an awful bait for leverage off the treble hook. So Zona showed me a trick of basically removing the split rings off your bait and tying basically a doubled loop out of braid, where now when the fish got on your bait, your treble hook could spin around 3-4 times before it would lock up for those fish to have any leverage. But blade baits where I had the biggest issue with it, but definitely I've used it on some topwaters and some big plugs. Don't seem to have as much issue on like square bills or DT6s and stuff like that, but stuff that rattle trap type baits would be something good to do it on too. The ones that you really lose a lot of fish on, but it just takes all the leverage out of the fish, and like I said, you can YouTube it and figure out how to tie it. Just make sure, little tip, I always, after I cut that knot, I'll take a lighter and burn down the tags, and then just make sure before you make a cast, you grab a pair of pliers and pull on that thing really good, because if you don't tie it right, it'll come loose and it'll break your heart. So make sure you pull really hard on it before you fire it out there.
Have you ever tried to do that with like a small, or I don't even know if they make a swivel with split rings on each end, but if they don't, maybe that's something you should get involved with, make it with somebody. But just a swivel, but with split rings on each end, could you do the same thing basically where it would spin and it wouldn't be as limp as the line? That's one thing about it. There's no rigidity, I guess, in the line like that. But
yeah, that and you might have a point where your hooks are hanging really low below your bait, which might not be a bad thing on like a top water or something, but that doing it with the braid, they sit exactly where they would if you had them on split rings.
that's interesting. I had never even thought of or seen that or anything, so that's pretty cool. So let's slide the rest of the guys back in here and get some more Q&A in. See if we can do that pretty. There we go. All right, I'm getting the hang of this. We're getting there. All right, so Colin McCain wanted to know, do the different sounds for hard baits matter, high frequency versus low frequency? And what conditions would you use for either? Or I guess when would you change frequency? So who wants to take this one?
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
So especially on top waters, I like a loud one knocking sound on clear water where to give them an opportunity to call them up from really deep. And typically a one knocker sound is a whole lot easier to walk because it's got one or two big BBs in it, and it's a whole lot easier to walk. But I like that one knocker sound 9 times out of 10. Now, when I go to my rattling baits, like you're fishing under the water, I like, a lot of BBs. I don't like that one knocker sound. And that's a big preference thing when you're fishing grass or whatever. But it just seems like, to me, I like a one knocker sound when I'm on top and a lot of BBs in the sound when I'm under the water.
What about, we see it a lot, like Lake Gunnersville's pretty close to here. I guess Chick's the same. A lot of these places with a lot of vegetation where that lipless bite's so big. So have any of you guys personally had experiences where you change up from one sound to the other on a lipless bait? There's like horror stories on Gunnersville of there's some co-angler caught like 26 pounds behind a pro. I think it was an FLW tournament up there. And then the co-angler actually took his bait off, and they were both red rattle traps, but he took his bait off brand or whatever the sound was, supposedly was the deal, handed it to his pro, and he caught like 22 pounds. So have y'all ever had a situation like that where you've seen the very, very small change in sound on a lipless bait make that big of a difference?
I haven't seen it where it goes from one knocker to your regular BB sound make a big difference, but I have noticed the difference going from rattle to silent. That's the only time I've noticed the difference personally.
I got you. Cool. Well, let's see if we got any more questions over here. Yeah, looks like we're dwindling them down. Yeah, great show. I enjoyed it, guys. We had a couple of little blunders here and there, but we had a good time with it. And technology, man, it's, I'm not tech savvy, and I'm tech support for my parents, so I can't imagine what somebody's going to have to do for me someday. But we'll get there. So enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all coming on. Y'all got anything, any last words? Anything y'all want to get in there? Y'all are just ready to go.
I'm good. I appreciate everybody coming on.
Yeah. Enjoyed it, guys. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we'll see y'all next time. Good luck out there. You follow. Won't be long. And go out there and hammer on like first, second, third. I didn't point anybody in particular. I'm just saying, oh, yeah, we got a challenge. I forgot about that. I almost forgot about that. So we got a challenge coming up associated with this episode, and that's one of the things we do inside the app at Anglr. And I'm trying to find my materials here. But we're going to have a challenge. So I'm going to kick you guys out. But it's going to be a Bass Roundtable Challenge. I'm going to pull up a graphic, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's see here. Maybe not. This is various like musical chairs. I didn't even kick myself out. That's pretty impressive. All right. So, yeah, we got a challenge here with this episode, and I'm going through. I've got it here. So what we want to do is we want to have you guys come out and go fishing. Just go catch them. You can go anywhere you want to. But these are the rules. So for the 7th episode of Wishin I Was Fishing, the members of our Bass Roundtable, Brandon Palaniuk, Drew Benton, and Seth Feider, are challenging you to catch 20 fish for the first cast of the Elite Series event at Lake Eufaula. That's the deal. That's the timeline. You got to get it done before professional fishing gets kicked off again at the Elite Series. So that's the challenge. All you got to do is go inside the app, download it, Anglr app. So this is where we're on my lake will go. I'll pull it up on the screen another time for you. But yeah, you go in the app, hit explore. There's the challenges, real simple. Click on the challenge. When you get it done, you get the badge. Got to complete. Oh yeah, we got several challenges in there right now. We got some of them have some pretty massive prizes. So the 108 degrees challenge is going on May 3rd through June 21st. That's a big one. Set the challenge, get in it. $5,000 worth of prizes up for grabs. So you need to get in there, get in the Anglr app. Lots of stuff to do in there. 108 degree challenge. That's a big one. Roundtable challenge. That's one going on. There's a lot of challenges going on at different times. A lot of them going on at the same time. Just get in there, catch fish, win challenges. It's pretty simple. But yeah, so we're going to bid adieu to you guys with that. That's pretty much the end of the show. So appreciate the guys coming on tonight. Had a good time hanging out with them. Got a lot of good tips in. We'll see what we can do next time. This is Wishing I Was Fishing with Shaye Baker.